Hey bud, assalamu alaikum. Today I wanted to talk to you about some red flags and green flags. In a lot of our relationships, when we're interacting, regardless if it's friends, families, intimate relationships, and coworkers, we tend to really look out for the warning signs to avoid investing heavily in those relationships. But some of us get so focused in that we don't look at what are the valuable things that they bring in, and if those things are relevant to our needs. So it's important to look at both so you can have a well-rounded assessment to assess, if relationships are worth investing in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I get started, if you're new here, welcome to Growing with Danyal. Here we talk about your relationship with yourself, with those around you, and with community at large. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, consider subscribing. Let's get started. So I'm going to spend majority of the video talking about some green flags, but before I do, I want to start off by mentioning the main red flags to avoid. And I actually talk about this more in my fundamentals of healthy relationship video, so I would encourage you to pause and watch that video. The main red flags are that there's no reciprocity in the relationship. Both parties are not willing to put in effort, or there's an unequal amount of effort going in the relationship long term. 2, there's no respect. So the way that they're interacting with you, the way that they're receiving information with you, the words that they use are not coming from a place of mutual respect. And 3, that there is no trust. You don't feel like you can rely on this person. They're not honest. They say one thing and they do another thing, right? These are some of the most major red flags that I've noticed when it comes to relationships that really give me an indicator if this relationship is worth investing in or not. So with that being said, let's start talking about some good stuff. Now, we need to take these fundamentals and apply them to all the green flags. So the first example would be communication. It's a very important green flag to me. If you're not able to articulate yourself and communicate properly, then there's a problem. Now, your communication needs to come from the place of the fundamentals of healthy relationships. It needs to nurture trust. It needs to have mutual respect. It needs to have mutual accountability. It needs to be giving and receiving. It can't just be one or the other. So my ways of determining if someone is communicating from a green flag approach would mainly be stuff like, how are they interacting with people who frustrate them, right? How do they handle difficult situations, and how do they articulate how they feel, right? Are they judgy? Are they blaming? Are they hurtful, right? Are they using language that's making the other person feel like they're beneath them and they are superior to that person? Think about the conversations that they may have with a total stranger, a waiter, when they're waiting in line, right? And they're frustrated and they're impatient. How are they communicating that frustration? It's completely fine to be frustrated when you're waiting for too long, and if you're getting bad service, right? It's fine to be frustrated, but how do you communicate that frustration, right? Are you blaming and shaming and attacking? Then I know based off of that you don't have mutual respect for the person in front of you, especially if that person is not of benefit to you. And then it makes me realize, okay, what if I'm not of benefit to you? How are you going to communicate with me? When it comes to talking behind people behind their back, right? Are they only saying bad things about people? Are they gossiping and backbiting? That's a big no-no to me, because if you are, there's a difference between venting and gossiping and backbiting, by the way. Venting is usually I need a safe space, I need to let out what I need to let out, but we understand that it's not personal, and it's not like a blaming, shaming session, right? But if you are only doing that, and I ask you a direct question, like, what did you learn from that interaction with that previous relationship, with that interaction with your boss, with that interaction with that person that you didn't like, and the only thing that you learned is what are things that they should be doing better, or what are things that you should be avoiding, and not any accountability on your end, then I know that if push comes to shove and we have any issues and you're talking to your family or other people that you're close to, you're probably gonna say negative things about me too. And that is an indication to me that I should probably steer clear. So communication can also be a red flag when it does not have the healthy fundamentals of a relationship, right? If it does not come from a place of respect, mutual accountability, and honesty, which will nurture trust, it can become like, there'll be some people who are really good at communicating, but they're coming from a place of attacking, shaming, manipulating, gaslighting. They'll find ways to take your words, craft a narrative, and make you even start guessing if the things that you have experienced is true. So that's why it's important to have the next green flag, which is the person that you're working with being self-aware and being able to hold themselves accountable. So self-awareness and accountability is important in relationships too, and I think it's a green flag when someone has taken the time as an adult to work on themselves, really understand, hey, these are topics that are sensitive to me. These are my triggers. They're able to, preemptively be prepared in case something happens, right? We all go through arguments, we all get frustrated, right? But it's important as an adult for you to be able to understand that. And if you make a mistake by, for example, you get too triggered, you don't realize it, and you snap, then you take accountability, and you're not like blaming the other person. You're saying to the person like, hey, I'm sorry, this is a sensitive topic. I shouldn't have reacted that way. Yada 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 yada. Now, if someone is being disrespectful and you deserved the response, right? That's a different story. But at the same time, it's important for a person to still own up to where their shortcomings were so they can improve, right? The extreme of that also is folks who just say sorry very quickly. That's a big red flag to me. As a recovering people pleaser myself, sorry was in every sentence that I would make. And the problem with that is, usually we're thinking about narcissists who are not sorry at all, but people pleasers become the other extreme where they just tend to say sorry to not address a conflict, not address a certain situation that is causing fear or causing them to survive. They would rather not have depth in that relationship. They would rather just keep the peace because that's all they know how to. That's how they know how to survive, which will lead us actually to our next green flag, which is that your relationship, the person who you're trying to be in a relationship with, is good and is able to be vulnerable. Relationships, they're just tough, right? You're dealing with a human being who has ups and downs and reacts to different things in different ways. And, a lot of it's subconscious. We're not even aware of the things that happen in our lives, right? And how it affects us in certain ways. So it's important to, for both parties to be able to be vulnerable. When I am working with someone and I notice that they're being a little snappy or they're responding to things a certain way, I try to dig deeper in that relationship. Depth is very important to me. I am a feeler, I'm a thinker. I like to talk about things that make people feel uncomfortable. Now, it's probably not wise of me to start off a relationship with a friend or coworker or anyone for that matter by talking about people's traumas, right? But I want to talk about life. I want to talk about poetry. I want to talk about drama. I want to talk about stories. I want to talk about their journey. And it's important for me that the other person is able to be vulnerable and dig deep and, sometimes share whatever they're comfortable with, share the skeletons in the closet, what makes them unique, because, that would help me understand them better. And the more depth we have, the more deeper and more stronger our relationship is going to be. Now, the flip side of that is someone who shares too much, is an open book, wants to share everything, and it's the same thing of like a people pleaser. They're just throwing everything out there because they just want you to accept them, and they're willing to do whatever they can to just to get your approval. And that just is someone who does not have any boundaries, right? Like this person most likely will take your information and share it with the world too. There is no respect and hard to build trust for that matter, because when you share something, that everyone is going to find out about it. So, just having that balance in the middle of being vulnerable in a healthy manner as the relationship progresses, right? And that actually takes us to our next point, which is being flexible and understanding of situations, and just really being, understanding of what's going on and who you're interacting with and adapting accordingly. So we've dealt with people who just take life too seriously. They don't have a sense of humor, everything has a rule, things have to be a certain way, and if you do not follow their way, then it's the highway. They cut you off and drop you in a second. And, people like that are just no fun, honestly, and they don't really last long. They end up being alone, in the long run, because life does not work like that. Everyone has ups and downs, everyone makes mistakes, no one, including them, is perfect. And even though they have created this armor, this fortress with all these spikes to protect themselves, at the end of the day, they're just afraid of showing what's deep down inside. So when I'm looking for relationships, when I'm looking to nurture relationships, I'm looking for someone who has a sense of humor, who is able to joke around about things, and if they're the butt of the joke, they don't mind, right? They're willing to look silly and look like an idiot at times, because that's the way that you learn. They're not always trying to cover up their mistakes and lie and hide it, or, say that, yeah, I already knew that, or, I already did this, right? It's okay. We're all human beings. We all, we are all making mistakes. So yeah, you need to be flexible and understanding. But then there's going to be times where you do need to have a backbone. I don't want you to look for floor mats, right? Someone who agrees with you all the time. They need to have their own opinions because they have lived life, right? If someone is agreeing with you on everything and they don't, you start noticing that there's contradictions with those values, and they're probably a people pleaser and they're becoming a doormat, and they're not really sharing what they genuinely feel, and that's a problem. There are going to be times where you need to stand up for what you believe in, and there's going to be times where you need to come from a place of mercy and understanding and not from a place of judgment. Now, the problem with the two extremes that I keep indicating, the narcissism and the people pleasing, is that both of these type of relationships are codependent. They are relationships that require for the person to survive in their mind to be in control of another person. And that's how their relationships work. You are not an independent person that is living your own journey, has your own decisions, your own values, when in a relationship with them, you are amplifying or supporting. They kind of feel ownership over you, feel the need to control you, are not able to develop trust and mutual respect and accountability. Everything is one-sided, and it manifests in different ways, right, for both extremes. So one of the things that I try to focus on when it comes to my relationships is I really want to, I have my own journey. I have things that I'm trying to do in my life. I have goals, ambitions, and dreams. And obviously, when I make commitments with certain people, whether it's my spouse, at work, we need to align on definitely some core values and fundamental goals that we are mutually, like a vision, a direction that we're trying to head, because that's what makes those commitments matter. I'm making that commitment for that reason. But still giving the independence for you to spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, do and pursue your own hobbies, watching your own shows, not feeling like you guys need to do everything together and need to be on the same page all the time and need to, it's a big problem if, you guys are not doing something or you're not doing every activity together. That's just exhausting. As human beings, we do need our space at times. We need times to reflect and refine. We need time to, just do brain dead things, silly things. And sometimes it's not going to be with the people that are the most closest with you. Sometimes it's going to be with strangers. Sometimes it's going to be in isolation. Sometimes it's going to be with people that your significant other or the people around you don't know. And that's okay. That should not be a problem. The way I would like for you to think about it is you should not feel that you need this person in your whatever relationship it is. You need them to feel as a whole, but more so everything that you need is inside you, and this person is amplifying that, right? Is encouraging that, is a supporter, is a complementer, right? And on your end is you're bearing witness to the journey of someone else, and you're also, same thing, you're also their cheerleader, you're celebrating them, you're encouraging them, you're there when they fall, but you're complimenting. You're not living their life, right? Because they're not living yours either. You need to find people and invest in people who are curious and not judgmental. Now, this is a hard one because when you live a reactive life, you will tend to find many people who are judgmental, right? Because they're reacting. But you need to come from a place of curiosity, right? This is something that I actively communicate and teach and work on with people, is when you're receiving information, what is the framework that you're using? Is it from a place of shame, fear, scarcity, or is it from a place of love, kindness, abundance, right? And that is where curiosity comes from. You need to be able to be like, let me think on that. Let me reflect that. How does that affect me? How does that impact me? What can I do to make the situation better, right? Not like, oh my God, I am a terrible employee. I'm a terrible husband. I'm a terrible son. I'm a terrible father. None of that. What could I have done better? How can I do better? It's okay. It was a mistake. It's fine, right? As long as you're, fixing your mistakes, you're in a good place. And we're all gonna make mistakes. It's inevitable. Don't try to run away from them, because then you're not living. You're just you're reacting in your relationships from a place of fear, and you really don't want that, because you're going to attract people who will take advantage of that, or who will be doing the same thing. And you guys are just going to be surviving each other and not thriving together. So that's just a collection of green flags that I try to look for when it comes to deciding how much to invest in relationships. Now, it's hard at times to really determine what is a green flag and a red flag, and a lot of that has to do with our relationship with ourselves. Because we haven't been exposed to healthy relationships, or we've learned unhealthy patterns, whether it's people pleasing or so many other that are out there, we tend to, our little meter that we have inside that's supposed to be a radar to determine, oh, is this good for me or is this not, is usually off. So that's why I usually encourage people to primarily focus on working on themselves, their relationship with themselves. So they're not interacting with themselves and then extension with the world from a place of fear, shame, and scarcity. You want to be interacting with yourself and the world from a place of kindness, love, and abundance. So other than working with a professional, I also encourage you to go check out my How to Grow series, where I do talk about different ways that you can be improving your relationship with yourself. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Look out for other videos in the How to Connect series. But until next time, take care. And remember that it is one step at a time, okay? All right. Bye. Bye.